Hey, what's up everybody? Thank you for joining me in part 2 of how to paint the Broodmother. And our first step in part 2 is to grab your any matte black or black and paint all the black parts on all the guns, the gun parts, the main part of the barrel and stuff like that. And this is obviously going to be a base coat, and it's the innermost part of the weapons and his armor here. So we got a few shots of that from the top. As you can see, it's all the inner parts, like you work inside out. It's one of the first things I was ever taught when painting miniatures, is to go work your way inside out. And all the armor plates sit on the outside of all the black parts. And I typically will go over all the inside black parts or of the gun before I will paint all the armor and shields. Now the next color you need to grab is Vallejo Monocolor Violet. That's the color I chose to paint my armor. If you're using a yellow, use your darkest yellow and work your way up. And you go over all the shield parts in the entirety of the Broodmother, including the weapons, anything that you didn't paint black as far as what's going to be the armor parts, you need to paint with this base coat of purple. Now I chose purple. You don't have to use purple. Same concept works with any color that you're using. Just find the darkest shade of that color. Like if it's yellow, you want to find like a yellow ochre or an ochre brown, something like that along those lines, and start with that and work your way up to a brighter and brighter yellow. So here's some shots of the base coat of the purple. Now, I did not show, I'm about to do a live sped up video here of how I painted this purple and the steps that I went through using the top weapon rather than painting on the Broodmother, because it gives you, you'll be able to get a little bit closer, and here it is. I did the black, I did that purple, as you're seeing right here. I painted all the shield and armor parts of the base coat of purple. Then I take the Genestealer purple, and as you will see in this video, I will take just a normal standard size brush, rather thin more than thick, and I will get the Genestealer purple, and I will go over all the edges with the side of my brush from that purple. Now this purple is the next brightest. It's a little bit brighter than a mid-tone purple. I purposely did it that way because we're going to be bringing it back down with a wash, so it'll look rather bright. But when you line it like this, because it's a machine, it's armor, and it's going to also make it look a little weathered as well. Not only is it giving highlights on each and one of the plates, it's giving it that weathered look that you see on most armored vehicles and things like that, especially in science fiction. You want that stuff to stand out, then the details to be really brought out in what you're doing. So I'm painting all the edges with using the side of my brush for the most part. For the places I can't get in, I will use the tip of my brush very carefully, as you can see there. And I just go over one side and then I work my way to the other. We'll go to the back. And you don't have to get every single corner. You don't have to get every single edge of the armor itself, just mainly the edges that are on top and some of the side edges if they're noticeable, because you don't. That's kind of where the light's going to hit it from the top if you're thinking about it that way. So as you can see, I'm only going over the top parts for the most part first, and then I take a look at it if there's a couple sides that I need to do that are exposed or will stand out. It's off camera there for a second. Sorry about that. If there are things that will stand out, I will go ahead and hit them with the highlight like I did right there, which is the underneath right there. So those are going to stand out on the back of the weapon, so I went ahead and did it all the way around. And we'll just continue to work our way around the weapon, painting all the edges of the armor. Now you do the exact same thing with the Broodmother's armor and all the rest of his weapons. You do the exact same thing here with the base coat and then this Genestealer purple from the GW paint range highlights and lines. And I'm just kind of going over a couple things that I might have missed right there. Like the edges on the side, I noticed that, you know, that's going to stand out a little bit, and so is the one on the bottom here, just like that. Then I'll work my way around to the front of the weapon and just kind of start on one side. It's usually good to start on one side because this purple does stand out, but when it's wet, when it's dry, it's harder unless you get it into some light. You'll notice that with your mid-tone colors, they kind of do that. Just continue to paint the edges here. And no, it's laborious. It takes a while. So after finishing with the Genestealer purple, we're going to go over the entirety of the weapon, including the black and all the black on the Broodmother and the black armor with purple tone ink. The reason why we're doing this is because it brings down that highlight just a little bit. That's why I said go with a little bit brighter than your mid-tone. Not only that, it stays purple because it's purple tone. And we're going to go over the entirety of the black with it as well. And going over the black kind of gives the black a little bit of a purple tone, and it kind of blends all that color together and makes it one piece. And I'll go over the entirety of the thing. As you can see, it's not a light wash, it's more of like a filter. You add just a tad bit of water to it, put it on kind of heavy, let the wash run where it runs. I'm trying to get the whole thing here. Had to get more out of the bottle. Try not to pour out too much. And then we'll end it right there, and that's, and you know, allowed ample time to where it's all dry. You'll notice it won't have that shiny look, wet look to it when it's dry. It actually dries fairly matte, almost a semi-gloss. So there you go. Now the next step is to grab GW's Caliban Green. We're going to do the green lenses on the weapon, and all the glowing balls and parts of the armor where there's green for the energy. I'm off camera there, sorry about that. I correct myself. So the only lenses that I'm painting on this particular weapon is these green lenses here, but you can apply this technique to all of the sensors and energy sensors and the wires and things like that, and the lens on the back of the weapon itself. So just we're going to base coat it in Caliban Green, as you see here, being mindful of the sides, trying not to hit the already painted and purple parts. And after we get a good solid base coat, I go over it one more time. We're mixing a like 25% water, 75% GW Caliban Green base coat. And we're going over it twice, essentially, to get a good solid green base on there. And you don't have to use Caliban Green. You can find another dark green in your collection. Or if you're not using green, you can do the same steps with red, with blue, etc. You just got to find the dark color and work it up. So the next color that we're going to grab here, yep, there we go. The next color we're going to grab is Caliban Green and Warpstone Glow. We're going to mix the two together, a 50-50 mix, kind of like that right there, where you're leaving a little bit of green, the dark green, and you're leaving a little bit of the bright green off to the side, because that bright green is going to be the step after this. And we're going to mix it with about a 3-part mix. Let's say that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Water, Caliban Green, and Warpstone Glow. And I'm only doing the bottom part of the lenses, and I'm doing the center of the back lens, the sight. So what I'm doing here on this part, you do that with your glowing orbs too. You work from the middle out, from the outside to the middle with those colors. And then we're just doing a green tone wash over the whole entire thing from Army Painter. That kind of blends those two colors together, gives us a little bit of color variation. And we're going to do the same thing to the lens on the back. Same thing with all your glowing bulbs and the wires and places where you have this glow effect on the Broodmother itself. Kind of brings those two colors together and gives us a good base. Gives that glowing effect too. Then straight up Warpstone Glow, we already have it on our palette, separated from the mix that we had, and we're going to put it just a little bit outside the edge of what we previously painted after the green tone wash is completely dry. So we're going to go, you can see that there's two tones there. We're going to mix it with a bunch of water, probably about 50-50 mix. And as you can see, I'm just barely going over the bottom with the Warpstone Glow from GW. I'm not necessarily covering up what I've already painted underneath. I'm just kind of leaving just a little bit of the combination of Warpstone Glow and the Caliban Green mix. And then I'm getting the center of this lens here. And as you can see, I'm barely touching it because there is quite a bit of water added to this mixture. It's a 50-50, or should be. What it's going to do, it's going to allow some opacity as well to where you can kind of see through the color, and it's a little bit more translucent. And there I am hitting the camera. Now we move to Moot Green. Moot Green is another GW color, and we're just going to get the bottom edges. We're going to do a 50-50 mix with that as well, with water. And we're just going to get the bottom edges. And as you can see, we're building up our highlights and getting that glow effect on these lenses. Just leaving a little bit of that previous green up top. And of course, this is going to have some opacity as well showing through. And as you can see, you're starting to see those colors build up to a glowing effect. I'm going to go one more time on the very, very bottom. And then in the center of the lens on the back. Now this goes for your globes, your wires, and everything on the broodmother off to your left up there. You do the same process, working your way from the outside in, kind of like a pyramid, if you want to think of it that way. Like the base of the pyramid is the darkest color. Now our lightest color is going to be lime green. It's a Vallejo color. It's fluorescent, basically. Lime green. It's really, really bright. And all we're going to do with that is get the very bottom tip. And we're going to do a 50-50 mix of water to paint. As you can see, it really brightens it up, and it really brings out those colors and really gives you that glowing effect on the lenses. And then we'll put this in the very center on the back. And there you have it. There's your green glowing effect. Like I said, you could do this with red or any other color as well. Then, I know it looks funny, but we're going to take sky gray, and we're going to put a little bitty tiny dot in the top corners of each one of these lenses to kind of give it that look of, the top right corner, to give it that look of being a lens, and there's a little glare, as you can see. Pretty cool effect, huh? So there you go. The green is done. The next step we have to do is grab Demonite Hide. It's a little bit of a whiter purple, a kind of a grayish purple. And we're only going to hit the very corners of each one of the edges, as you can see here. And what this does, it brings out the edges. It highlights the edges as if they're worn, they're battle worn, that sort of thing. And also gives the purple an extra added highlight. And all I'm doing is going over the rivets and the very corners and edges of the armor itself. And I do this in its entirety to the whole entire broodmother. This is the very final step that I take with the purple. And that's in case I get a little green and I have to repaint it or what have you. I don't mess up this part. And I promise you, if I do videos in the future, it'll be a lot better and it will definitely stay in focus. I apologize for the camera not focusing. This is my first painting tutorial, so I hope it gives you enough insight on just how you can do this. And if you're not using purple, using black, using red or yellow, just find the highest color highlight and do it on the very edges and the corners. And that's it. That's all that's left to do on the broodmother, is once you go over all the armor of its entirety throughout the whole entire broodmother, look it over, start on one side, work your way to the other. That's typically what I do. And get all the edges. As you can see, it makes it pop. You're kind of seeing it as I'm adding it. It kind of makes that armor pop just a little bit more. And you're just accentuating the highlights that are already there. And you're making it look a little battle worn as well. So, but that's the last step, as you can see. And if you're using any other colors, like I've said, just use your highest highlight, and you'll really see how this will really bring out that edge highlighting that you did on the weapon itself. And you only want to do these on the top, where the light is shining down. So there you go. I've sealed it up. I've put it on the broodmother. There she is in all her glory. And thanks for joining me for this painting tutorial. I hope it really helped you, and we'll catch you in the next video. From me to you. Ta-ta! and see you in the next video.